we had seen the distinction between a change in supply, which is shifts in the supply curve, and a change in quantity supplied, which is a movement along the supply curve. So in this lesson, we will see the factors that cause a shift in the supply curve. So what would make there to be a shift from S0 to S1 or from S0 to S2? And that means factors that will contribute to an increase in supply, either an increase in supply or a decrease in supply. See that a variable that can change the quantity supplied of a good or a service at each price, these variables are called supply shifters. So that is the name, the economic term that is, or you could refer to them as determinants of supply. So we have determinants, supply. These determinants of supply, of course, changes in non-price factors that cause the entire supply curve to shift, either to the right, showing an increase in supply, or to the left, showing a decrease in market supply. So they include, and we list them first. Then we go ahead and have a discussion on how each of the factors affects supply. So the very first in our list here is the price of inputs. So we have price of inputs. Price of inputs. These inputs are like the economic resources. Let's call them economic resources or factors of production that are used in the production of goods and services. We have returns from alternative economic activities. This could be an influence, or this could be influenced by prices of related goods. You see what that means? We also have a number of suppliers or the producers. So could be an increase or a decrease in the number of suppliers or producers. We have technology. So if there is a technological advancement, this could have a contribution. We have government taxes and subsidies. Then, of course, future expectations of the producers. So producer expectations. The last would be a special one here called natural events. So let's go to looking at each of the determinants of supply, and let's see how they affect supply. We are starting with the prices of inputs. The prices of inputs, or the prices of economic resources. So in terms of production of goods and services, the production process is one that takes inputs and converts them to outputs. So these inputs are economic resources, or the factors of production. And then our outputs are the goods and services that are going to be supplied to the market. So in this case, when we talk about prices of inputs, then we are talking about the price of the factors of production: labor, capital, land, entrepreneurship. So we see that a change in the price of any factor of production will change the cost of producing any given quantity of goods and services. So cost of production is related to the cost of the factors of production. Then if the price goes up, that means the cost of production goes up, and then we'll have a reduction in terms of the profit margins of the producers. So they'll be willing to produce and supply less quantities of goods to the market, and this will lead to a decrease in market supply, which is a shift of the curve to the left. So saying that an increase in factor prices will decrease quantity suppliers will offer at any given price. This of course, as we said, will result to the supply curve shifting to the left. If there is a reduction in terms of the prices of the factors of production, then the suppliers will be able to produce more quantities at a given price, and there'll be an increase in supply, so the curve will shift to the right. Hope that is understandable. Let's look at returns from alternative economic activities, or this could also be translated to mean the prices of related goods. When a company decides to produce a certain combination of goods or goods and services, a choice that is made is, of course, there'll be more, of course, in terms of the resources, we say that resources are limited. But then when you look at the needs and wants and all the things that are competing for these resources, there are very many business activities or products that we can make. So when we choose to produce one product and not the other product, it means that there is something called opportunity cost. What do we miss out? We miss out on the other alternative that we could have chosen. So, for example, if we choose to produce maybe cars and not do like agricultural production, then we miss out on the agricultural production, which becomes now the opportunity cost of choosing to produce cars. So if all the resources that we had were all geared towards producing cars, but all of a sudden we notice in the market that the prices of the other alternative has increased, it means people producing the alternative will be making more profits. Then if we decide that we will take all our resources and channel them to producing the related good, then we see that there will be a reduction in terms of the supply of our core product that we were producing initially. So to summarize this, you would say that if the returns from an alternative economic activity increases, producers will be willing to direct their resources to produce these alternative goods and services. And this will lead to a decrease in the supply of the main goods, the ones that we were producing originally, and this will shift the supply curve to the left. So that's about returns from alternative activities, or even changes in terms of the prices of related goods and services. Notice that we are not talking about a change in the price of the good itself, but it is the related goods that are changing in terms of their prices. We go on to look at the number of producers, how number of producers or the number of suppliers affects supply. And I think this is a straightforward one, that if the total number of producers increases, so say that for an upwards arrow shows an increase in terms of the number of producers, then say that there will be an increase in supply. So supply will increase. Increase in supply, we said, is a shift to the right. So that's how number of producers affects it. And then if number of producers decreases, then you see supply decreases, and there'll be a shift to the left of the original curve. Technology, mainly in terms of advancement. If there's an advancement in technology, it will help in improving the production of goods and services. So an improvement means that there will be fewer and less costly inputs that are required, because we are becoming more efficient in terms of how we convert the inputs to the outputs. So the cost of production is going to be low. At a low production cost, at the same price that we has been set in the market, then our prices will increase and there'll be a motivation to produce more quantities because we have more resources available to produce goods and services. So an advancement in technology will cause the supply curve to shift to the right. In cases where there could be maybe technology that has been rendered obsolete or is affecting negatively the production of goods and services, then that may make production expensive, leading to a decrease in supply. Move on to looking at the government in terms of taxation and subsidies. So if taxes increases, this will increase the cost of running a business, and the cost of running a business is one of the main investments a business puts in. So cost of running a business, if cost of running a business increases, then that will eat into the company's profits. This will in the end discourage manufacturers or companies from producing. So they will have fewer quantities of goods and services at the same market price. And fewer quantities of goods and services means that there is a decrease in supply. So a decrease in supply, we said, is a shift to the left. I think that's well summarized. Less taxation, of course, will be good for business and may lead to an increase in supply. Sometimes the government may decide to offer support to companies that want to produce goods and services. So when the government increases subsidies, so this is the support that I'm talking about, the subsidies. When the government increases subsidies to manufacturers, it will help in terms of reducing the cost of producing physical goods, or even in terms of reducing the cost of running a business, the overall cost of running a business. So at the same market price, companies will produce and sell more quantities of goods and services in the market. And we will see that, of course, increasing market supply and resulting to a shift of the curve to the right. We move on to looking at the expectations of the producers, and this depends on whether they're optimistic about the future of the market or they're pessimistic about the market. There are two ways, of course. If producers think that they can make more profit sometime in the future, what will happen is they will hold back supply now to wait up to when this future comes, and then they can increase their supply, because when you're running a business, the primary motivation of any business is to make profits. So if you can maximize profits in the future, it will be good for the business, for the owners of the business to decide to wait up to the future so that they can increase supply, and we see that will have an impact in terms of shifting the supply curve. The expectations could also be in the future that there will be a decline in the profit margins, so that in the future profits decline or reduce. If they're expecting that in the future prices will reduce, profits will reduce, then they will be willing, or the producers themselves will be willing, to produce and sell more quantities today. So in the present day, that they will be willing to supply more in the present day so that they can maximize on the profit-making opportunity that has presented itself. And of course, when more is produced and supplied, that the supply curve would shift to the right. The last factor is natural events in terms of the shifters of the supply curve. We also call them the determinants of supply. And natural events is a special one because it does not affect the production of all types of goods and services. But There are specific examples that we can discuss. So say, for example, one that is mainly affected by natural events is agricultural produce. And this agricultural produce is if we rely on rain, because there are of course, there are other producers who may decide to do irrigation. And if they are doing irrigation, it means rain patterns may not have so much in terms of impact on the agricultural produce. But if the agricultural produce is relying on rain, things like natural events like droughts and famine or drought, this will affect the agricultural produce. Then when there is plenty of rainfall and other favorable weather conditions, we see that, of course, the farm yields may go up. In extended drought, quantities produced from the farms will decrease. So that's how natural events would affect, especially in terms of production of agricultural related goods and services. Then we could see also other natural events like global pandemics that are not things that are not planned for. And the impact of this would be, for example, the impact that was felt during the COVID-19 pandemic, which would lead to many of the construction activities then stalling. And there was also direct impacts on healthcare, and this was in terms of production and distribution of drugs and related protective equipment for use by the people who are working in healthcare to combat the spread of the disease. Yeah, I think that best explains how natural events may affect supply of goods and services. So mainly, the best example would be looking at agricultural produce or produce from farms, and in the case where those farms rely on natural rainfall and not on irrigation. So plenty of rainfall and other favorable weather conditions would lead to an increase in supply, and there is famine and drought that would reduce supply. That summarizes determinants of supply, and hope you've gotten some value from the lesson. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.